So I'm going to show you how to customize a template in Photoshop Elements 12. So go ahead and fire up your program. Now if you're like me, I have the free trial. So I just want to hit continue trial if that dialog box pops up. And in the event that it pops up and says organizer or editor, make sure you click editor. There are actually two software programs in Photoshop Elements. We're going to talk today just about editor. So in editor, you've got three modes: quick, guided, and expert. Make sure you click on expert at the top middle of your screen. That's the mode that's going to allow you to customize your templates with 100% control. So go File, Open, and open up the template I had you download prior to this webinar. After it loads, you're going to see your screen pretty much in three basic pieces. To the far left of your screen, you're going to have your toolbar. The middle of your screen is going to be your workspace. And then to the far right, you're going to have all of your layers. So yeah, the buttons at the bottom right corner are going to fire up different controls. Mostly we're going to be on layers and effects, the first two. So think of layers as layers of a cake. So if you were to scroll to the very bottom, you're going to see the bottom layer is your papers or your background, some people will call them. And then just to show you a little bit better, we're going to select the move tool. So see how every layer is layered on top of itself? This is going to come in handy when you're trying to layer elements on top of each other. So, and this is where naming comes into play. So if you want to rename your layers so you know what's what, sometimes the little preview image next to it is sufficient, but sometimes when you've got more than 40 some layers, it's nice to have them renamed. You're going to have two major little icons next to each layer. The eyeball tool, which is see or don't see. So if it's X'd out, you don't see it. And then a little chain link. This is to link or unlink layers. So this will come in handy if you've got multiple layers you want to move at the same time, so that you don't mistakenly not move one and not all three at the same time. Whether or not you click on one layer or all three at the same time, it'll do it for you after linking. We're going to not worry about that for now. That'll come later. So, and then you have a little icon next to it called FX. That's effects. So just like the bottom of the screen next to the layers button, you've got the FX. And that'll open up different controls, if you will. So now from here you can change the drop shadow, size, distance, and quality, and a lot of fun stuff. So now on the toolbar, we're going to work with three main tools: the move tool, we're going to work with the paint bucket tool to change colors potentially, and the color picker tool. Oh, and the text tool. Obviously to write text, to journal, to write the date for the title, etc. So now that I've given you a quick overview, absolutely quick, we're going to look for our photos and start with our photos to customize the template with. So if you make sure your tool is on the move tool, click on either the image of the photo or the photo layer, go File, Place, find your images that you're going to have put in those areas. And I'm gonna, actually, you know what, I'm gonna do images of my little guy. So let's see. We'll do this picture. So now you're going to get a big X through the picture, okay? Your picture is not fully placed until you hit that green check mark or until you hit enter. So hit the green check mark or enter to place it. And you're like, okay, well that didn't do anything. Well, now you need to make sure, see the photo box we're trying to put the photo in? Move it over top of it. We don't have to rescale it just yet. Just make sure it's fully covering that area. Right click on the picture, create clipping mask, and that is going to create a clipping mask so that that picture fits in that box perfectly. And then we can play with the resizing. This will help so that you're not accidentally not filling the box completely. So we'll just do that. I'm going to move it to make sure it's filled. Keep going a little bit. And the green check mark to place it. Okay. All those elements, don't worry about them. They are covering a space right now. I'm going to actually do something with those later, so just leave them for now. Now the next photo, click on the photo box or click on the layer, File, Place, and then find your other photo and hit Place. Again, green check mark or enter to get rid of that X to make sure it's fully placed. And then right click on your photo layer, the actual photo, hit Create Clipping Mask. And that's really the meat and potatoes of this tutorial. If you can go File, Place, and do clipping masks, you can customize this template within minutes. So, clipping mask 2 will also look like an indent over above the layer. It's good to know that a clipping mask will only work over the layer right below it. Sometimes you can have multiple clipping masks, and I'll show you that in a different tutorial. But for now, just know that the layer right below is the layer it's going to go into. Resize it, and you can rotate it. And then hit the green check mark to place it. Great. Now, back to all those little elements, and see how it says photo over that? A lot of good templates are going to have a delete this layer. That's more for guiding, so you can either turn off the eyeball so you don't see it, or you can delete it. And for me, I'm just going to delete it to get it out of here. Make it more simple. Okay. Now we're going to get rid of all those pesky elements in a second, and first we're going to change the paper for the background. So find your paper background, File, Place. Now here's where you want to go to find the folder that you downloaded of papers and embellishments. It can be any papers, it doesn't have to be these particular papers. So I'm going to choose this orange polka dot background and hit the green check mark to get rid of the X to place it. Okay. Looking pretty good. Next, we're going to choose a paper for this other paper on top of the background. So File, Place, choose any paper you want. Now we have to do a clipping mask. And it's starting to look like a page, a lot more personalized. All those elements we're going to get rid of all those elements. They're kind of in the way, and I can show you how to add your own embellishments. So select all your elements. You can turn them off individually or just delete them. For me, I'm going to delete them. You can leave them if you'd like. So it leaves us with the basic shapes. I'm going to get rid of that little circle so you can see. So you can get rid of any layers you want, none of them if you don't want. You can also place papers and do clipping masks for all those flowers so that it'll look like customized flowers, or like I said, delete them. So now we are going to do papers for all these little shapes. And essentially all we're going to do, select the shape, hit place, choose your paper that you'd like to use, green check mark, and then right click on the layer and hit create clipping mask. Now we're going to do another shape. Just keep repeating this process until you've customized the template fully. Place, choose a paper, hit the green check mark or enter, right click, create clipping mask, voila. You can do this one of two ways. If you're using the same paper for multiple layers, you can actually go to the paper you've already placed, hit duplicate layer, hit OK, and then drag that paper above the layer you want to clip. and then right click. Sometimes this will save time so you don't have to keep looking for the paper that you've already placed. Just easier. Again, pick your shape, hit File, Place, choose your paper. That one looks cool. Hit the green check mark or Enter to place it. Right click on the layer, create clipping mask. We're going to duplicate this layer so I can show you that again. Drag that paper above the shape that you want to fill it with. Create clipping mask. Awesome. So we want to do that same paper 2 more times. So duplicate layer, drag it above the layer, create clipping mask, find the shape. Awesome. We're going to duplicate it again. And you can rename your layers again, that's where you can do it. And drag it above, create clipping mask, and you're done with those circles. Now you've got 2 green squares we're going to do papers for. So again, File, Place, choose your paper. Hit the green check mark. Right click on that layer, create clipping mask. We're going to duplicate that layer. Hit OK. Drag and drop it above the other green. So I'll just drag and drop, or scrub they call it, until I find that other green element. Right click on the layer of the paper, create clipping mask. So I got those 2 green squares filled with paper. Same process, choose your shape, File, Place, choose your paper, green check mark or Enter to place. Right click on your layer and create clipping mask. We're going to duplicate that layer, do the other gray paper, the light gray paper since there are 2 grays, create clipping mask. Now you've got the 3 black shapes. You've got the ribbon and the 2 black boxes. So choose your shape, File, Place, choose your paper. Which one should we use? Let's try this one. I don't know if I like it though. It's a little too busy. Yeah, I don't like it. So I'm going to, instead of hitting the green check mark, I'm going to hit the red circle with the X through it for Do Not Place. I'm going to redo that and choose a different paper. I like that one better. Place, green check mark or Enter. Right click on the layer, create clipping mask. We got 2 more to go. So we're going to duplicate that layer, hit OK, drag and drop it. And that's for the ribbon. Right click, create clipping mask. And last but not least, we've got that box to do. So duplicate the layer. You can also still File, Place if that's easier for you to learn in the beginning. Instead of duplicating layers, feel free. But there's that. So the pictures kind of don't look, they look just like they're floating above. So we want to make them look with a border maybe, or do something fun to those. So find the photo box, not the actual photo. Go to Effects at the bottom right corner. And let's see what we want to do. Go to Strokes. Strokes are kind of fun because then you can add a stroke to the outside. And I'm going to play with this a little bit and see which one I like best. They do have pre-made colors for strokes, but I'm going to start with the smallest. Double click it to apply it. See how it barely adds a light black border? I want it thicker. Let's choose a different one. Double click it to apply. Oops, it's not working. I know why. So we're going to want to go to our layers and make sure we're on the photo box, not the photo itself. And this will be easier for me since we've already applied a stroke. I'll just increase the stroke size to 18. That looks good. And then I'm going to copy 18, or just remember the number 18, because I want to make the other picture border match. I don't want them to be two different thicknesses, just for my personal preference. So I'm going to do a black stroke again. Go back to my layers. Click on the FX next to the photo box, not the photo itself, and then type in 18 for the size of the stroke. And hit OK to apply. But I'm not sure I like black. And that's what I defaulted to. So let's try to find a color we like. There's a couple ways you can do this. Click on the FX next to the layer, and you can pick a color, any color, in that palette. We'll try white, which is FFFFF, the hex number. And we'll do the same thing to this one. Set the color of the stroke. Okay. Hit OK. But I'm not sure I really like that either. I'm going to be picky about this. So maybe I want to have the border match the paper. So instead of selecting it on the gradient, I'm going to take that color dropper tool you see on the screen and then click anywhere to get a color of the page. And this paper has multiple oranges in it because it's dark and light in places, so I'm going to try to find a medium orange. I'm going to copy that number. That's the number of that particular color. BY, because I want to make my other photo border match. You don't have to. I'm just showing you how you can do that. And then paste it there. Hit OK. That looks a lot better. Perfect. It's starting to look like a real page. Okay, so we want to change the title. So you're going to want to double click on the T for text. And it'll bring up a panel at the bottom. It'll have the font name, the font type, the font size, and then different effects you can apply to the font, etc., etc. So we'll click OK for now, do that again, double click so you can see, and then you've got your font name or type. You've got your different effects, your different sizes, your justification, left, center, or right, bold, italicized, underlined, or stroke through. So just some fun things to play with. By the way, a good tip is to go to dafont.com, DAFONT.com. You can download fonts and use them for your titles. It's pretty nice. They're free fonts as long as you're not trying to make money off of that. I'm going to choose this font, but I don't like how squished it is, so I'm going to just, I don't know, tweak it a little bit, stretch it out so it looks more unsquished. Okay, let's play with this a little bit. I want to change the color. First, I'm going to rename it just to show you that you can. And then I'm going to highlight my text again to bring up my type box at the very bottom. I'm going to change the color this way, but I don't really want to do that there. I can do this. I can go to your color swatch. Again, we'll try to match the page, so pick a color, any color. We'll do green. Let's get a darker green, okay? And kind of, I don't know if I like that. Well, we can also, just like the shapes that we place and do clipping masks of papers over, I can do the same thing. So file, place, let's choose a paper that goes into that font. I want the polka dot paper. So green check mark to place, create clipping mask, and voila. Let's add a drop shadow though, so that it looks like it's, it belongs on the page. So this is where linking your layers could come in handy, so that if you move your title, you can link them. But right now I think we're just going to go ahead and place a drop shadow is what it's called. And those are some different versions, but we'll do the basic. Although I'm not sure I like that black drop shadow. You can change the color of the shadow, the opacity, the distance, the size, so that it it looks just the way you like. I'm going to add a little bit of a bevel so it looks like I bought this. Like it looks like stickers perhaps. Just a little bit of one. Give it a little punch. And let's change that shadow because it's still bothering me. Change it to a blue and then make it a darker blue because the page is blue. So a shadow on there would ultimately be a bluish shadow. Just a little tip or trick I've learned over the years. And we're gonna tweak it a little more, just so you can see how much you can customize it, to what extent. Okay, I'm gonna put the boy on the second line. And then I'm gonna change the spacing between the lines. So first let's fix this. You gotta select both layers to move the paper and the text, and then say link layer so that doesn't happen again. So if I move one or the other, they both move together. Okay, and that is the spacing between the leading, they call it. The spacing between the lines. I'm gonna customize that so it doesn't look like so much airspace between the two. And now on to our journaling. So real quick, same thing, double click on the text box, type your text. Oops, can't see it, so we have to move it, of course. Hit the green check mark to place. Make sure you're on the move tool, and then move it. By the way, real quick tip, if you ever mess up, push Control Z to undo anything, or Edit, undo. You're never stuck with a mistake, just remember. And just a little tidbit, I'm going to add the date. I'm a big person that likes to add dates to everything, to all my pages, because, you know, for archival purposes, I'm a big fan on keeping everything chronological. So let's play with that. Let's make it a little bit different size. I want it small. Oh, it's too small. I want it small, but not too small. And I want to put it in a spot that doesn't detract away from the entire page. So we're going to move that right up on top. Perfect. So I have the date, we did some journaling, we've got the title, and then when you're getting ready to print these, keep in mind you're going to want to keep probably a quarter of an inch to a half an inch border around. Now grant you the picture comes to the edge, but his face isn't going to get chopped off. So anything important that you don't want to get chopped off, like the text or the title or photos, make sure that they are towards the center. Likewise, I'm going to make this paper mat a little smaller so that when it prints, I can actually see that and it doesn't bleed off the ends. So just a little tip. And that's my page. So I want to file, place, I'm going to add some, this is where I'm going to add some of the embellishments I deleted in the beginning. All those flowers I deleted, the fake flowers if you want to call them that, I'm going to add my own embellishments that I've downloaded. So here's a flower. This one, all we have to do is file, place. We don't have to create a clipping mask or anything. I'm going to add a drop shadow like I showed you earlier. I'm going to add another embellishment. Let's choose one of these leaves. That looks cool. And this is where the layers come into play. So I'm adding this leaf thing, and I want it there, but I don't want it on top of the photo. I want it behind, and I'm going to flip it so that the leaves point inwards to the page. Just a design tip. I want a drop shadow, but then I want to make sure I drag it and put it behind the photo because I don't want to put it on top of his face. So there we go. Much better. File, place another image. Let's choose this button with the string. Move it to where you want on the page. Yeah, right there, looks about good. Add a drop shadow, so go to Effects. Low is probably going to be the most used one for drop shadow, just so you know. Place another one. Maybe another flower. Oh, I used the green, so I want to use the orange flower. Move it. Add the drop shadow. Awesome. Maybe one more element. Again, this is where your layers are going to come into play. Oh, but I kind of want that on top, and I'll show you why. I'm going to add a drop shadow. I'm going to put the arrow pointing to him because he's the birthday boy. Let's see. There we go. I like that. Perfect. Oh, and maybe one more element. I lied. File place. I like this circle thing, but I'm not going to do a drop shadow. I'm going to just try to make it be in the background. So, I don't know, we'll play with it. Let's see right there. I want it behind everything. I don't want it on top of my photo for sure, for sure. Perfect. Maybe we'll move that a little bit. Make sure I'm on the right layer. See, this happens to the best of us. So find your image, move it to where you think, and maybe I'll resize it here in a second. Yeah, I'll resize it. Perfect. All right, so I just added my own embellishments and I customized the template, and within minutes I have my own page. So file, save as. Now rename your file, please. You don't want to rename it over top of your template you spent a lot of time finding. So I'll do the year 2014 underscore the month 02 for February underscore 17th for the date underscore and then the title, whatever title you want to give it. We're going to create a new folder. This is very important. So for organizing purposes, new folder, and let's say pages on your desktop just for simplicity's sake. You want to put a new folder in that folder named the year, or at least this is how I do it, just a suggestion. So now, after it saves, let's minimize the screen for you so that you can see what I just did. I created a folder called Pages. Then in that I created 2014. And then now, once you have multiple pages in there for the year, it'll put them in chronological order. I just find it's easier to find things. You don't have to necessarily print it that way. But when it comes to printing, we purposely didn't export it as a JPEG. Remember, a JPEG is a flattened high-res image, if you will, for digital scrapbooking. I like saving everything in the raw format, which is Photoshop document file, the PSD. But now I'm going to show you how to name it as a JPEG. Keep the same name, just different file extension. Same folder. Make sure it says that JPEG and then save. I just scroll it up to 12 for the highest quality, and then I'll show you what that looks like. So if I go into Pages, I go into the year, I've got my PSD, so I can go back and change it at any point, or I've got my high-res image that I can use for printing. And that is how you customize a template.